This is a special college football playoff rankings release edition of the Matt Barrie Show here on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel. Paul Finebaum here with me now. And Paul, when you look at these rankings, and I want to go down them here, just the top 6 overall to make sure that we get it. Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4. Those are your 4. Washington and Oregon 5 and 6. Your overall first impressions of what the committee did.
I think we've been conditioned to Ohio State being number 1, so I'm not really all that upset. I frankly think Georgia should be, but we are so early in, Matt. This is not a time to go Stephen A. Smith on you. So I'm not going to do that. I think it's pretty accurate. I think Michigan, many believe it should be higher, but I can't go that way because of what we've seen so far schedule-wise. So I hate to agree with these people because it's cliche, but I think for the first outing, I'm okay.
Yeah, I kind of share the same sentiments. Ohio State, again, we knew that was going to happen just based. They've got the best resume to this point. I am surprised that both Georgia and Michigan got in just based on schedule. I would have had Georgia down probably at around 3 to 4, just because, they've had a couple of good games at Kentucky and Florida. Overall, it hasn't been that impressive. To me, Michigan at 3. I know they've been the most dominant team in the country, Paul, but their schedule is 111th in the country. Their strength of record is 9th. The only reason I would have put them out of the first one, knowing that it's made for TV, it's going to handle itself with Penn State and Ohio State. And so I just wouldn't have set that precedent right away. The big surprise for me, not one Pac-12 team in the top 4, 5 and 6, Washington and Oregon respectively, in a conference that I think we believe outside of the SEC, top to bottom, you could argue is the best conference in the country.
Yeah, and again, we haven't, to the audience, we haven't had the, I don't know if it's the luxury of listening to the committee chairman opine. Maybe you have, Matt. I haven't, but it's not going to matter because it's all fairly convoluted anyway. I think the other thing that sticks out, going a little bit deeper, is Texas over Oklahoma. I am not an institutionalist where you have to, if you beat the other guy, you have to be ranked ahead of him. I just think there's too much. Maybe on the final poll, that's a good indicator, but I think on Halloween night, I don't think that's a big deal. I kind of go into this telling myself don't get upset, and so that's a little bit of where I am. Probably 14, 15. I just blew nails out listening to some of the rationale, but I think it's a good template. It's a baseline, and that's really for all the people out there who think these people don't know what they're talking about. That's all this is.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that we learned about the committee and rankings, one, because I do like reading tea leaves with how the committee might be looking at things, and for me, it's clear that eye test was an important metric for them because of the Georgia and Michigan rankings. Something interesting that stands out to me, I don't care about the Texas-Oklahoma thing. Oklahoma's lived dangerously 2 weeks in a row, and they finally got. But for me, the interesting intel, let's go down to 12. Mm-hmm. If you go down to 12, 1 through 12, every team in the top 12, minus Florida State, plays one another in these top 12 rankings. Now, the only, actually take out Louisville. I misspoke there. No, that's right. No, Louisville's 13th. 12 is Missouri. So yeah, every team top 12 up faces each other, minus Florida State didn't play any of them.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too. I think later on they start playing chess. I still think they're playing checkers, to use that cliche we both cringe at when we hear about coaching matchups, but because I just don't think I don't think they have thought that far ahead. I think that's really perceptive of you to yank that out. Where does all this change? With Michigan, it's obvious. With Ohio State, it's obvious. With Georgia, it's not quite as obvious, but Georgia, help me out here, Matt. They got Missouri, which is right outside the top 10, and they have Ole Miss, which is inside the top 10. So those are really big matchups for them. Tennessee, on the road. So I think Georgia can work itself back into number one. Not that it really matters. I think I mean, I heard somebody say that Kirby Smart's probably happy that they're not. I don't think you're going to go into your locker room and browbeat this team saying you've been disrespected because you're number two, even though you've won the national championship 2 years in a row. I think those players are smart enough to see through all that too.
I'll tell you who I think was disrespected. I was stunned LSU was at 14. They already beat Missouri. Missouri's ahead of them. I think they would beat Louisville. Louisville's ahead of them. The losses to Florida State and Ole Miss. I probably would have slated LSU at 11 just behind Ole Miss. That was the one that stood out to me. I know they've got the 2 losses, but I still think LSU is a top 12 team.
Yeah, well, we sit around and say, man, Ohio State, what a schedule. Well, you just laid it out. Brian Kelly's got the schedule. When on top of that, you consider, he's where he's going Saturday night. So yeah, LSU has been done no favors at all. But yeah, I think that's important for this reason, Matt, what you just got through saying. What if LSU beats Alabama and runs the table? Then we have a major conversation, and I think that will correct itself. I'd love to say that this committee said we don't want that, because we don't want 2 lost teams here in the final year of the CFP. But I think, where would LSU be next week if they beat Alabama? That's something that I think next week becomes a big topic of conversation. We have preempted or looked ahead, but that to me is where next week is all about if LSU wins this game.
I would say, all things considered, a relatively calm first release for the college football playoff rankings, but already this week you've got big ones, including 8 versus 14 and 12 versus 2. All of this is to say chaos is coming. For Paul Finebaum, I'm Matt Barrie. Instant reaction to the first college football playoff rankings here on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel.
Give me something.